Maria was an extremely poor girl who never let anyone touch her bag. Rich girls would constantly make fun of her. One day, when a classmate named Noor's 2,000 rupees went missing, the teacher decided to check everyone's bags. However, Maria clutched her bag tightly to her chest and refused to let anyone see it. The teacher scolded her severely and took her to the principal. When the principal opened Maria's bag to investigate, Maria burst into tears. The principal hugged her because, in Maria's bag, "What kind of treasure are you hiding in this bag that you don't let anyone even touch it? Come on, show us your bag. Let's see what treasures you have hidden inside." Noor, one of the top students in the class, was known not only for her intelligence, but also for her mischievous and arrogant behavior. She took pride in always topping her class and being the daughter of a wealthy man who funded the school's scholarships for underprivileged students. Noor often mocked the girls in her class who attended the prestigious school on monthly stipends, making sure they knew they were there because of her family's money. Maria clutched her bag tightly to her chest as Noor and her friends stood behind her. They seemed to have a personal grudge against her and would go out of their way to tease her whenever they got a chance. Noor was pulling at Maria's bag, taunting her about what she was hiding. Maria, feeling overwhelmed, held onto her bag with all her might, crying. Noor and her friends went as far as pulling off her scarf, messing up her hair, and pulling at her braid. Just then, a girl ran into the classroom and announced, "Miss Aisha is coming." Noor and her friends, scared, quickly returned to their seats, knowing well how strict Miss Aisha was. She never cared about students' backgrounds, treating everyone equally. Maria whispered a quick prayer of thanks, hurriedly placed her bag on her desk, and tried to fix her appearance. But by the time she was done, Miss Aisha had already entered the classroom. All the students were seated neatly, looking presentable, except for Maria. Miss Aisha's brow furrowed when she saw her disheveled state and remarked, "What is this look? Did you come straight from a field? You always look like this. Your work is never complete, and you come to school looking like you haven't even washed your face." The class erupted in laughter, with Noor laughing the loudest. Noor added, "Who knows? Maybe her parents make her work in the fields. After all, they need food on the table." Some students chuckled quietly, but Miss Aisha silenced them by hitting her stick on the table, saying, "When I am speaking, who gave you permission to interrupt? If anyone speaks out of turn again, they'll be sent out of class." Maria, having fixed her appearance, murmured an apology and sat down. Miss Aisha didn't waste any more time and began her English lecture. Despite coming from a poor family, Maria was one of the students who earned an A+ in her studies. She was engrossed in taking notes from the whiteboard when suddenly there was a commotion in the class. Noor had opened her bag to take out a pencil, but then shouted in surprise, "My money has been stolen. Where is it? Who took my money from my bag?" Miss Aisha paused, put down her marker, and turned to Noor, asking, "What happened, Noor?" Noor stood up, looking distressed, and said, "Miss, I had 1,000 rupees in my bag, but now they're missing." Miss Aisha told her to search her bag carefully, convinced the money must still be there. Noor replied with a hint of sarcasm, "Of course, miss. I bring this much money daily to school. I need it to buy things for myself and my friends during lunch. But today, what will I do? I don't have any money." Miss Aisha looked at each student's face, then checked Noor's bag herself, only to find that the money truly wasn't there. Miss Aisha then instructed a student to lock the classroom door so that no one could leave. She personally checked the bags of the 4 girls in the first row, but the money wasn't there. She asked these 4 girls to go in turns and check everyone's bags to find out who had taken the money. One by one, the girls had their bags checked, and they stood in line to have them inspected. Suddenly, there was an argument on one side of the classroom. Miss Aisha looked over and saw 2 girls fighting over a bag. Noor stood nearby with a mocking smile on her face. In reality, Noor hadn't lost her money at all. She had created this whole scene to get Maria's bag checked, hoping to reveal whatever secret Maria was hiding. Miss Aisha walked over and sternly asked, "What's the issue here? Why all this noise?" The girls replied, "Miss, you yourself said that everyone should get their bags checked, but Maria is refusing to let us check hers." Miss Aisha looked at Maria and said sternly, "The whole class has shown their bags. What's your problem? Take out your bag and show everyone." But Maria shook her head in refusal and replied, "No, I won't show my bag." Hearing this, Miss Aisha raised her voice and said, "So it means you're the one who stole the money. You're refusing to show your bag to hide the theft." Upon hearing this, Maria shook her head and, holding back tears, said, "No, miss, I didn't steal anything. Why would I even want to steal Noor's money? I never even go near her desk or touch her bag. Please, leave my bag alone." By now, Noor had joined the scene saying, "I suspected her all along. She's the one who did this dirty act. This poor, low-class girl living off our leftovers has no worth to study here, and now she's even stealing from the bags of us wealthy students." Hearing Noor's words, Maria began crying even harder, hugging her bag tightly to her chest. "I didn't steal anything. Can't you understand? I won't show my bag to any of you," she sobbed. Miss Aisha, rather than stopping Noor, slapped Maria hard on the face, saying, "Not only do you steal, but you also argue? Show me your bag, or I'll make sure you regret it." Miss Aisha's harsh, unkind manner didn't suit a teacher, but she continued speaking harshly. "Still," Maria replied, "no matter what, I can't show my bag to anyone." The noise was reaching outside the classroom. A few other students from low-income families who were studying at the school on scholarships couldn't bear to see Maria being treated this way. Quietly, they left the class and informed the school principal. A short time later, Vice Principal Ms. Bushra arrived at the classroom. She opened the door, and seeing the scene before her, her brow furrowed in anger. Her commanding voice sent a shiver down Miss Aisha's spine. In a firm tone, Ms. Bushra said, "What's happening here?" No one had ever seen Ms. Bushra this angry before. Miss Aisha, about to defend herself and explain about Maria, was silenced by Ms. Bushra, who raised her hand and said, "Bring that child to my office." There was complete silence. Miss Aisha took Maria and Noor with her to the principal's office. Ms. Bushra was seated there, and she called Noor forward first, asking what had happened. Noor repeated her fabricated story, claiming, "Maria stole my money from my bag." Ms. Bushra, a gentle and soft-spoken woman, asked, "How can you be so certain that Maria took your money?" Noor replied confidently, "Because she refused to show her bag. Miss Aisha even slapped her, but she still wouldn't show it. It means that she's the one who's been stealing from us all along." After listening to this, Ms. Bushra sent Noor back to her classroom, leaving Miss Aisha in the room. Then she called Maria into her office. Maria entered, trembling and still sobbing, hugging her bag tightly to her chest. Her hair was disheveled, and the red marks from Miss Aisha's slap were visible on her fair skin. Ms. Bushra looked at Maria's face, saddened by the sight of a child who had suffered such treatment. She invited Maria to sit in the chair in front of her, and then asked gently, "Tell me what happened." At this, Maria began to cry uncontrollably, saying, "Noor treats me horribly. She taunts me for being poor and makes fun of us poor girls with her friends. Today, she tried to snatch my bag. When I refused to show it, she accused me of stealing." After hearing all this, Ms. Bushra looked at Maria kindly and said, "I will speak to Noor about this. But why didn't you let Miss Aisha check your bag? When everyone else in the class showed their bags, why didn't you?" She added gently, "If you had shown your bag, no one would have suspected you. But when you refuse, everyone assumes you are guilty, my dear." Hearing this, Maria lowered her head. Ms. Bushra walked over, gently patting her head, and said, "Show me your bag, Maria." Maria hesitated, then looked at Miss Aisha nervously, and finally handed the bag to Ms. Bushra, saying, "Please don't tell anyone." Ms. Bushra promised softly, "I won't tell anyone. Show me what's inside." Maria hesitantly handed over her bag. As Ms. Bushra opened it and looked inside, her eyes widened in surprise. And then, a tear rolled down her cheek. She began to cry, holding the bag close. Overcome with emotion, Ms. Bushra embraced Maria tightly, her heart breaking as she understood the depth of Maria's struggles. Miss Aisha was still standing in shock, watching the scene unfold, wondering what exactly was in Maria's bag that made Madame Bushra so emotional. When Madame Bushra opened Maria's bag alongside the books, she saw a few pieces of dried bread, some half-eaten chicken pieces, remnants of kebabs, a half-eaten burger, and a packet of leftover shawarma. There was also a small bag with some rice mixed with yogurt. These bits and pieces lay in the bag, revealing a story that Madame Bushra now started to understand. Unable to hold back her emotions, Madame Bushra pulled Maria into a gentle embrace, making her sit beside her, and softly asked, "What is all this, dear? Tell me the whole story." Miss Aisha, too curious to remain in her place, moved closer to the bag and inspected its contents. She was taken aback by what she saw. No money, only food items. Puzzled, Miss Aisha looked at Maria, but Madame Bushra, her voice full of compassion, asked, "My dear, why did you keep all this hidden?" Tears started streaming down Maria's face as she finally broke down, saying, "Madam, I didn't want to be ridiculed. The kids in my class already trouble me enough. They make fun of me, call me names. If they saw these things in my bag, life would be impossible here." Maria continued, "My father passed away. He was a government employee. Although we receive a small pension, it's not enough to support us. My mother is a heart patient who can't handle strenuous work. Whenever she tries to work, she feels unwell. She does what little she can, but she's weak and can't lift heavy things. Even her medicines have run out. I have 4 younger siblings, and none of them can work due to their age. We can't bear to see them go hungry. One day, we didn't have any food at home. Whatever stale food or leftover bread was there, my mother gave it to my younger siblings. The only reason I can attend school is because of the scholarship. My dream is to get educated so that I can support my family and make sure my mother and siblings never go hungry or beg for help. For the past 2 days, I had nothing to eat and only drank water to survive. Our neighbors have also stopped helping us, saying they have their own expenses, so we stopped asking for help. As I walked back from school one day, I noticed a restaurant where a man was selling kebabs and naan. I saw him discarding half-eaten food into a bag, possibly to give to animals later. Seeing the food, I couldn't resist. I approached him and asked if I could have that food. He looked at me strangely, saying it was leftover food meant for animals, not people. I insisted, saying I wouldn't pay for it since it was discarded food. He handed it over without asking for any money. I ate some of it to ease my hunger and saved the rest in my bag to bring home to my mother and siblings. Since then, it has become my routine. I pass by that restaurant every day, and he gives me the leftovers in a clean bag. My family is aware that the food comes from a restaurant. Even if it's leftovers, it's precious to us. We thank God and survive on this food. I hope to finish my education and get a job so I can support my family." Madame Bushra's eyes filled with tears as she listened, and Miss Aisha too felt ashamed for treating the innocent girl harshly without understanding her plight. Madame Bushra then gently held Maria's hand and encouraged her, saying, "There are only a few, maybe 5%, who endure such hardships for their education. God will surely reward your dedication one day, and I'll do my best to support you." With that, Maria left the office, but Miss Aisha and Madame Bushra couldn't stop thinking about her and her mother's struggles. Madame Bushra later invited Maria's mother to the school. Since she had some basic education, Madame Bushra offered her a job at the school where she would manage attendance records and assist teachers. This way, she could earn a monthly salary and also take care of her health. The school held a ceremony recognizing students like Maria and their families as heroes and awarded them, emphasizing that all students, rich or poor, are valued equally, judged not by their wealth but by their dedication to learning. Gradually, the students' attitude toward Maria softened. Although some still displayed their upbringing, Maria became an example of resilience and courage. Time passed, and eventually, Maria became a doctor. Not only did she continue her education, but she also supported her younger siblings in their studies. At a school ceremony, she invited the restaurant owner who had kindly provided her with food. She thanked everyone who had helped her on her journey, recognizing that she wouldn't have reached her goals without their support. Indeed, she had become a beacon of inspiration for girls who once believed they couldn't achieve their dreams.